Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the official SuperCoach AFL live show. Al Paton here with Matt Forrest to talk all things teams for round 11, some captains, and we'll get to your questions too at the end. So leave them below. But plenty to get through, starting with a pretty massive game to kick the round off. Matt, welcome. Looking forward to the Baslenka show tonight.
Yeah, it should be a cracking game tonight. Obviously, all eyes are on Bailey Smith, but it's really two top four aspirant teams that are coming together at GMHBA. There'll be plenty of fireworks, and as you said, Smith is going to be the centre of attention. But outside of that, it's going to be a cracking game of footy.
Oh, we'll get to some captain talk later on, but just quickly, would you consider chucking the VC on Baz? A couple of 150s in his last two games, but you'd think, he'll get, they'll try and get under his skin, but then maybe that'll just fire him up.
Yeah, I think he's the sort of player that would thrive under that sort of aggression and the theatre of it all. So there is the temptation to chuck it on him. But I think it was you who wrote it in the SuperCoach Captaincy Corner article today that Geelong, Western Bulldogs are pretty good against midfielders. So I've erred against that, and I'm leaning a slightly different way for my captaincy. But there certainly was the temptation, at least earlier today.
Yeah, no, he's an option for sure, but I think I'll skip it as well. But we'll get to those later on. I mean, quickly on the teams, which we obviously saw yesterday for this game, a couple of names at Geelong I thought might quickly ask you about. I mean, Tom Stewart's back. For anyone, I know some people, we had Lee Montagna, SuperCoach ambassador, came on the podcast this week. Go back and check that out. But he's held Tom Stewart this whole time, so he'll be happy that he's finally back. But a name that caught my eye was Ted Closey, who's been in and out. He's been the sub a couple of times. But given the injuries that Geelong have and the fact that there's not a heap of rookies around, I think he's about 145K in SuperCoach. He's mid-forward. He's been putting up huge numbers in the VFL, and he's got about a 70 break even. So, might have a look at him this week, and if he, drops a 50, might be able to pick him up even a bit cheaper next week. But is he someone who you think could get some games with these injuries down at Geelong?
Well, hopefully. Unfortunately, he's just been named as a sub, so you've butted him up and he's served out. Yeah, unfortunately, the Cats have just announced that Ted Closey will be tonight's substitute, Lockie Bramble for the Western Bulldogs. So that's not an unexpected duo. But yes, you're right. It's a if he can avoid the sub vest, he's got all the traits of a good scoring or a good scorer in him. He plays obviously sort of midfield, relatively defensive midfielder. Not that he's really cracked into the centre bounce rotation just yet, but likes to tackle. He's relatively clean by foot and by hand. So if you can get an extended run in it, then that'd be great. So hopefully maybe in the next couple of weeks he cops the vest a couple more times, drops a little bit in price, and we can get him for a very discounted rate.
Yes, well, his price will come down, but it does go to show you probably wouldn't be trusting him based on that, the fact that he's at the sub tonight. But we'll get into the teams for the rest of the games. And, of course, we've got the huge dream time at the G on Friday night this year with the Tigers and Essendon. So plenty of interest SuperCoach-wise with the Bombers, and probably mainly that Sardell Hawley has been dropped, which we were worried might happen after he was subbed out last week. I mean, they had a lot of bad players, so he's pretty unlucky, but clearly he's right on the fringe of the sort of 22, 23 there. But that's a bit of a kick in the pants for everyone who traded him in, which was plenty of us. Now, I couldn't afford Sardell Hawley, so I got Archie Day Wicks, and he's been dropped as well. So, I saved about 15 grand and ended up in the same place. So he scored probably a few less points, even though he played the whole game. So, some big outs for Essendon on the rookie front there. They have got a first game here, though. Angus Clark is a 113K defender in SuperCoach. I don't know anything about him. Can you tell us much about Angus Clark? There's a few potential first gamers this week, actually.
Yeah, there's a few confirmed debutants, a couple more that might get a run. Angus Clark, drafted as a rebounding defender, broke his collarbone. I think it was the second VFL game of the season. So he spent a couple of weeks on the sidelines, but has come back. Has been playing on a wing in the VFL side, has been relatively promising there. I think that's long-term the sort of vision for him, but a really good user by foot, hard running, sort of tough player. But he's quite light framed, but he throws himself at it, which is, I think, he's going to win over a lot of fans very quickly. It's just a case of the role, I guess, if he is going to be stuck on a wing playing that, or if he's going to be more on half back like he was when he was drafted. It's it's night and day, really, the SuperCoach scoring potential between those two positions.
Yeah, I wonder watch. I mean, he's named on the wing, not on the bench, but then Archer, Dave Wicks was as well, didn't really help him. But yeah, one to keep an eye on tomorrow night. And the Tigers, a couple of three pretty big outs there, actually. Toby Nankervis has been managed, so it'll be Samson Ryan coming in to face off against Todd Goldstein in the ruck. Tom Lynch, delayed concussion symptoms. I think that was basically the last contest of the game. He reported that he was a bit sore afterwards, so he's going to miss. And, of course, Noah Bolter can't play because of his curfew. So in comes Campbell Gray for his second game, and Maurice Rioli Jr. comes in as well for obviously a pretty big night for the Rioli family and all the First Nations players. So that'll be a big one for him. Tyler Sonsie had about 40 disposals in the VFL last week and can't get back into the team. I think Kane McAuliffe has shown a bit, but I'll have to check his price. He's very a bit too expensive for us in SuperCoach. But
248.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably
a bit too much. I looked at him myself and I was slightly tempted, but I think I'd rather go Dante Visentini if I'm going that price point.
Yep. All right, I think that's about all to say about the Tigers, but should be a big night at the G tomorrow night. And then the Giants GWS game. Again, plenty of changes here. Carlton, and there's another debutant here for us to talk about. So Elijah Hollins is out for personal reasons. Jack Silvani's injured. Mark Pitnet is out, so that gives you a hint of one of the big ins for the Blues. Francis Evans is out, and Jordan Boyd is injured. So Harry O'Farrell comes in for his debut. He's another cheap defender. Lockie Fogarty's back. Tom De Koning is back. Just missed the 1 week after we were panicked last week, and I certainly traded him out. But interesting that Pitto goes straight out. So TDK rocking solo against Big Briggsy. Blake Acres and Sam Doherty gets another run as well. So I did see some footage that Carlton fans were posting today of Harry O'Farrell, making him look like the next coming of Zach Reid, a bit of a young intercept defender. But I did look up his numbers at VFL level, and they're not huge. But again, we're going to need cheapies over the next few weeks. So he's one who could potentially help us out.
Yeah, I'd look at him more as that sort of lockdowny type defender than a true interceptor like Reid. But he in the last couple of weeks he had a slight role change in the VFL, and it's producing. It's allowed him to sort of float off the ball a little bit more and float off his man and attack the ball rather. So plenty of positive signs for him. The fact that he's getting a debut only 8 months after he got drafted as a project back is great signs of promise from Carlton. They've got a lot of faith in him to hold down the fort while Silvani's out. But yeah, I think once Silvani has recovered from that groin injury, he'll be sort of slotting straight back in, and O'Farrell last one in, first one out.
Another one you mentioned before we came on air is Jackson Binns playing his third game, so he's on the bubble technically, but 171k midfielder, could minus 19 break even. Is someone we could consider potentially?
Yeah, I don't think he's a high scoring option, and I don't know what the job security is like. You'd have to speak to a couple of Carlton fans just to really hone it down. But he's played pretty well. The 171 is probably going to be a sticking point for a lot of people who are looking to get really cheap rookies while they upgrade their sides. Spending the extra, I know that he's not playing, but the 70k between him and an Archer Day Wicks type who is 99k. As an example, obviously Day Wicks has been omitted from the side, but that's a good example of that difference that's going to change you from being able to get up to a Bond from a George Hewitt type. So I think there's going to be a lot of people that get stuck at that price point, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair comment. But yeah, as you say, scores haven't been too bad in his first couple of games. The Giants, meanwhile, a couple of changes there. Now we know Finn Callahan is out for, I think, 4 to 6 with that shoulder. So that's really bad news for him. And for anyone who had him in SuperCoach, he's been absolutely flying lately, pretty much since I traded him out about a month ago. Toby McMullen's injured as well. So Lee Cleary's back, and Harry Rouston, I think, would this be his first AFL game as well?
No,
this
Harry
year,
Rouston.
maybe at least.
Yeah, this year, definitely. I'm not sure if he's debuted before. Yeah, it's his first game for the season. Let's see what Google says. He's played 7 games, so there you go. But
right. He's 119k mid, so
there you go.
Yeah, he can't have done a whole lot in those 7 games, I'd say. But yeah, another one to watch, see how he goes this week. Hawthorn playing Brisbane at the G. I think this game is the Hawks. Impey's in, Jack Gunston's back, Lloyd Meek is back, Connor Nash is back. So out go Ned Reeves. Bailey McDonald, Finn McGuinness, and Kelshia Dia. And the Lions, Dev Robertson gets a game. Jared Berry is back. And Kadeem Coleman is out managed. That's probably the big one for SuperCoach. Connor McKenna's out as well. But Kitty looked pretty good in his first game back last week from his long layoff with knee injury, almost sort of a year and a half. But Chris Fagan said today he pulled up sore, so they're just managing him this week. So he was certainly someone that was on my radar as a nice cheapie. He's only about 260K in SuperCoach that could fill a spot for me sort of through the buys. Would have been pretty handy. But, hopefully maybe just sitting out the 1 week. But we'll have to maybe put those plans on pause for a moment.
Yeah, he looked pretty good. I don't think he showed enough for me personally to jump on after just the 1 week. I'd want to see him again. So the fact that he's been managed is a clear sign that it's going to be a slow process for him getting back to full fitness. And he's obviously at full fitness, but you got to get that match, the feel of the game and the flow of the actual footy happening in front of you. But hey, a 72 on first game for 14 months is a pretty good sign that you can be a really good scorer. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it impacts Dane Zorko long term. I know that Jasper Fletcher has played that sort of second distributing back off halfback, so maybe he's the one who's more impacted and he gets pushed further up to a wing. It'll be interesting to see once they're all playing together relatively consistently, but it gives us hopefully through the actual buys, he comes back next week in round 12 and then plays through for the next 4 or 5 weeks at a pretty cheap rate.
We don't really talk much about our footy tips on this show. It's more of a SuperCoach show. Probably a good reason if you see how I've been going in the tipping this year. But I mean, this week there's a heap of really pretty impossible games. So you backing in your Hawks in this one, or just
I think so. I think
sort of job.
I think it'll be a really good game. Both sides having a pretty lean patch. I know Hawthorn's lost against the Gold Coast and if it was played at any other stadium in Australia, it could easily have been a win. But the Lions have been relatively poor in the last couple of weeks. So I'd expect them to bounce back, and so it should be a cracking game. Whoever loses, I think, is really struggling at this point to either be 2 or 3 losses or 2 losses in a row, and the third game being a draw for Brisbane. There'd be a couple of question marks for Hawthorn. It's even more important at the start of a pretty tough month for the next 4 or 5 weeks. They got some cracking games of footy coming up, so bank a win here would be great. The fact that it's at the MCG, I think, certainly favours Hawthorn.
Yeah, I think that was just what decided it for me in the tipping. But as I say, I don't really follow what I'm doing. North is playing Collingwood also on Saturday. Paul Curtis, Zach Fisher back for the Kangas. Bailey Scott and Zane Dersma go out of the side. And for the Pies, they've rested or managed steel side bottom. William Hayes comes in. He's a 113K mid forward in SuperCoach. So a bit of DPP, but I don't know much about him either. Do you?
Well, drafted as a winger, got really good pace and pretty good endurance as well. Has spent the VFL season so far as a small forward, averaging a goal a game. Sort of a good pressure player there. More of a sort of deeper forward, but has had patches where he's played that high half forward role to great effect as well. Like the fact that he's so, he's got a great tank allows him to get further up the ground and impact and be a sort of linking player. But the damage he's done has been mainly closer to goal. So I'd imagine he's going to be a prime candidate for the sub vest. Unfortunately, fingers crossed he avoids it. I know Lipinski's been sub a couple of times. He might, he's been named on the bench again. But he, hopefully can get a full game into him, because at his best, I think he'd be a decent scoring option. Job security, I think, is something that could be a real concern. The fact that he's coming in as the one change for a managed player probably indicates he might be the first out if he doesn't perform strongly. So he's got to hit the ground running.
Yeah, I mean, just at least there's a few of these guys in. So most of them are probably, like you say, high sub risk or not. Guys, we expect to score a heap of points, but you never know. You pop an 80 in game one, and all of a sudden you get another game, and they become an option. So we just need 1 or 2 of them to pop off. Would be really handy. Freo is playing Port on Saturday night as well. No change over at the Dockers. Port Adelaide does have some pretty significant changes though. The massive one, obviously, for SuperCoach is Jason Horne-Francis out. Did his hamstring, one of a heap of injuries in that game last week. So he was listed as 4 weeks on the Port injury list, but then It's been reports he's been running laps, and he says he feels all right, and he might only miss one or two. So, not exactly sure how to read that. Josh Sin also out injured. Lockie Jones injured in the same game, and Sava Radigalia as well. So Brandon Zerk, Thatcher, Trevor Spoke. Rory Atkins gets a chance, and Hugh Jackson, that's another debutant for Port Adelaide. But I suppose a big question that we will need to address is, can you potentially hold Horn Francis, and we'll get to Jack McRae as well, the two big SuperCoach outs this week. I think some people taking the opportunity to, let's use that money and go and maybe get two cheap guys, or just go all the way up to a Bontempelli type, which is what I'm tempted to do. But I think you're more sort of, playing the long game. Am I right?
Yeah, I'm a hold. I think the timing of the injuries is almost perfect. It would have been better if it had happened this week going into the buys, but best 18 next week. I've managed to, not by plan or design, have my my premiums relatively spaced out in terms of the bye weeks over the next 4 or 5 weeks. So I'm holding for now. If I'm scoring terribly this round, I think I'll trade Horn Francis out and swing in a Dante Visentini or someone who's playing later in the round. But that's only just to try and keep my head above water this week. But the plan going in is to hold them through the buys, cop the best 18. You'll be slightly it's not as damaging, I think, personally, if you're missing someone for 3 or 4 weeks, if they all happen over the bye, because you're going to be missing players anyway. So that's my theory. On Hugh Jackson, very excited. I think if he can keep his side in the Port team, which the Power have shown, giving extended runs to rookies is sort of their forte. You look at Christian Moraes, that type. Jackson is a ball winner at heart. I hope he avoids a sub-vest. He absolutely accumulated at under 18s level, accumulates into the sandful, just gets mass pills. So I'm very excited for him. If he can get a full game and get some moments in the midfield or playing as a high half forward, he could have a couple of really decent scores. So he's one that I'm really excited for.
Yeah, okay, that's good to know. And the other one you did mention too is Dante Visentini, named in the ruck again. So this is his 3rd game, bubble game. Jordan Sweet's in the emergencies, but we know they pretty much always name a ruckman there just in case. And Visentini, scored 90s and 80s in his first couple of games, -34 break even, 248K. I think he would be a really good option. Just doesn't really fit in my team when the rucks are pretty stacked, and I've got another ruckman in my flex. And it's probably a bit too much to pay for a bench ruckman, but I think he could be someone who makes a bit of money over the next few weeks. But it is a bit tricky when they have the bye next round. But is he someone you might look to bring in?
I reckon I would have looked at it a lot more seriously had Flynn not scored 111
and
sort of reset his cash gen. And the fact that he's playing again this week sort of helps that. As I said, if my scoring is going horribly this over the first couple of days of the round, I might swing a late change and go Horn Francis down to him just to try and get an extra scorer that's half decent. But he is going up against Luke Jackson, who is my one of my rucks. So I don't know how I feel about that. A little bit conflicted about whether I bring him in or just hope that Jackson scores 180 against him and absolutely smashes him pillar to post. So yeah, I'm a little bit conflicted. I'm sure I'll come up with a solution halfway through Saturday.
All right, now we jump into the Sunday game. So looking at some extended benches here, and the Crows I brought in 3 players without dropping anybody. Luke Pedler, Sid Draper potentially comes back in for another crack, and Billy Dowling, who I'm not sure if we've seen him at all this year, but one of Phantom's favourites, helped us out in SuperCoach last year. And the Eagles coming off a win. They've actually made some changes. Well, Jamie Cripps and Matt Owies are both out for about a month each with injuries, so potentially opens the door for some of these West Coast rookies. So we've got Noah Long, Archer Reed, Bo Allen, Clay Hall, and Diwar, I can't remember his first name, is in, and they're nearly all on the extended bench. So Tom Gross is still on the extended bench, Clay Hall's on the extended bench, Bo Allen's on the extended bench. So we'll have to wait until 5 o'clock Friday to know for sure who's in the team, and then till about midday on Sunday to find out which one of them is going to be the sub, which seems to be the way Minnie likes to go about it. But yeah, hopefully one or two of those guys at least get a full game and can help us out. And it'd be great if a Clay Hall or even a Bo Allen can do enough to sort of cement their spot through the buys, because we're going to need these bench guys to come on and just help us out to make up the numbers in some of those rounds, I think.
Yeah, another one that's sort of rookie price point elevated, has played a fair few games, is Sandy Brock. With Jeremy McGovern currently out indefinitely pending medical review for his concussion. Obviously, we want McGovern playing AFL footy again, but while he's out, Brock is probably going to be locked into that best 22 and has shown a capability of scoring 50s and 60s, which isn't that great, but it's better than nothing through the bye rounds. I don't think I can justify spending 180k on him though. That's the only thing.
Yeah.
I think job security has probably got the best out of that sort of price point, or those rookie type players. But yeah, I just don't think. I think scoring and cash gen are two things you got to seriously consider, and I don't know about either of those for him, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Second game, Melbourne v Sydney, and a couple of new names in here to look at as well. So again, Melbourne just the 3 ins. Leavers back, Bailey Laurie and Jai Cully named for his first game. Again, on the extended bench if he makes the cut. Former Eagle. He's about 150k, I think, in Supercoach, a mid forward. Scored okay when he first came into the Eagles side a couple of years ago. Has obviously dropped off the radar a fair bit since then. And then the Swans have a bunch of changes. So Callum Mills is back for his first game. So that's pretty big in Supercoach, and he's been named. Where is he? He's on the field,
on the wing.
Is he?
Yep,
yeah. So there
he's
you go.
Confirmed in. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, he's in the 300k range, and I mean, Kitty was the guy I was looking at, but maybe I just bypass him completely and go straight to Callum Mills because I really like his potential scoring at that price. His body obviously is a big question mark, but yeah, we'll get a couple of games. Unfortunately, he'll be on the bubble a game or two before Sydney's bye, which is not sort of ideal timing. But yeah, I think I'll grab him anyway if he looks the goods, because we know how he can score. And that, when we're struggling for cash, or you might be spending all your bank to get a Bontempelli type like I am, being able to maybe upgrade a rookie to him for only 150 grand or something is going to be huge. So yeah, massive watch on him. Hamish McLean comes back in. Taylor Adams gets a game. Ben Paton on the extended bench, but he'd help me out if he gets in. Mitchell is back in, and is that Ned Bowman for his first game? Don't know anything about him. He's a rookie price forward. And out go McInerney suspended, Amati is suspended, and Aaron Francis is injured, so he won't get DPP, unfortunately, which will get the new round of dual position players after this round. But yeah, some interesting moves there at the Swans. What do you like out of any of those youngsters? Do you think Ned Bowman will get a game?
I don't know if Bowman will get a game. It'd be great. It's great reward for he's been relatively consistent without being super spectacular at VFL levels, playing as a sort of a half 40 type. Sometimes he's been incredibly inaccurate at goal. I think he's kicked like 1 goal 7, but his sort of linking ability to set up teammates has been great. Like our man Lockie McCurdy up in Sydney loves him. Expects him to debut at some point this year, but I don't think it'll be this week. But the fact that he's been named on the extended bench and will be an emergency for the game is probably for him great reward for a good start to these campaign.
And the other one there on the bench for the Swans, and you would expect him to get a game, is Angus Sheldrick. Now, about at halftime last week, I was nearly ready to trade him in. He was on about 70 Supercoach points, but completely hit the wall after that and finished on about 80. And I think that's been the issue for him his whole, I want to say his whole career. He's only been around a couple of years, but he can score really well in short bursts as a sub, or as we saw last week in the first half. And then, just not sure he has the tank for a full AFL game yet, but he's got low break even. I don't know if it's in the negatives. Oh no, it is negative 20. So he could go there, but he's 191,000. That's probably going to be the biggest problem.
Yeah, and also I think with Callum Mills coming back into the side, he'll probably get pushed out of those sort of CBA numbers a little bit. I know that he featured a bit around the ball, which was great. It sort of fell away in the second half, as you said, just purely fitness wise. I think he's an explosive short burst sort of player, and his endurance isn't the best part of his game. So Mills coming in probably forces him to play more of a sort of a half forward role. He might get the sub vest, or he might drop out of the side completely.
Yeah, so I think he's going to be a pass. In the last game of the round, the Saints against Gold Coast at Marble Stadium. Now, heaps of changes here at St Kilda, not all just extended benches, because Angus McLennan is out. Jack McRae, we know he's injured. So 2 to 3 weeks, I think they're saying, for him with the punctured lung. Their bye is in, so I think they have 2 games and then their bye. So you'd expect he certainly won't be back before that. maybe back round 14. So, yeah, again, could you potentially hold him? Lance Collard is out and Hugo Garcia gets the boot. And Isaac Keeler comes back in. Zach Jones, Hunter Clark, first game for a while. Liam Henry, was wondering what happened to him. He's dropped right off the radar. Angus Hasty potentially gets another crack. If anyone still has him on the bench, I started him many moons ago and didn't think he was too bad in the first game or two, but I haven't seen him for a while. Hugh Boxall, now he is on the bubble, I think, this week, but he's on the extended bench, so we'll wait and see if he makes the final team and if then he's potentially high risk to be the sub. But if you picked him up early like me, then we'll be hoping that he gets back in, and Max Heath as well. So, heaps going on there at St Kilda. Philippou named at centre-half forward. Any, would you hazard a guess at who might make the cut and who might be the sub out of that collection on the extended bench?
I would say the Travalia, Clark, Wilson, Hall, and Hasty to be the sub. That would be my guess.
All right, we'll see. I'll try and remember.
Hopefully, Travalia gets a full game. That would be
I was just going to mention him. Joey really talked him up, actually. Said he's one to watch in the second half of the year. And I did look up his SuperCoach price as well, and he's a bit of in that sort of Sid Draper territory where he's around that 180, 190K. And he hasn't really scored much because he's been the sub a few times. His price hasn't come down. I think it's actually gone up slightly since he started. I was hoping he might have lost a bit of value, but yeah, definitely one to keep an eye on in the run home. And Gold Coast, and there's a name on here that I was very excited about, which is Ben Jepson. Now, he's been named in the last spot on the extended bench, so we don't want to get too excited, but I think he was in one of my teams in the preseason after they picked him up in the supplementary selection period, mature age, sort of halfback, Riley Bice type, 99K in SuperCoach. So fingers and toes crossed he gets in. He'd be an amazing option if we can all get him really cheap during the buy rounds. But we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. But he's in this week potentially on the extended bench along with Ethan Reid and Sean Lemons. But you think you'd probably be backing the Suns to win that one, even coming down to Melbourne?
I think so, but it's also the sort of game that St Kilda just pulls off randomly. So
yes, it is.
Suns have been great though. So and they're coming, they'll get a 9-day break going into this game. 9-day, 10-day, 10-day. Oh, how's my maths?
Wow, really? Yeah.
So I mean, they're very good, and St Kilda's not very good. But Saints win these games. So I wouldn't put it past them.
And
they'll come out and they'll lose by 10 goals though, and Gold Coast will make you look silly.
Yeah, but it's not beyond Gold Coast to just randomly drop one like this as well. They lost to Richmond at Marvel. So they've still got that in them potentially. But all right, that's it for all the teams. We've got some questions we'll get to in a sec and some captains, but it's time now for our best bets powered by Better. And I'm going to kick us off straight away. We'll say last week I got a little bit greedy with CJ at the Hawks, let me down completely. John Noble covered the 25 possessions. Looked like he had about 45. He was on fire, but CJ didn't get anywhere near it. So no luck for me there, but I'm targeting the Dreamtime game this week. And I just, I don't really have anything to back this up, but Isaac Kako, we've been talking about him all year in SuperCoach, and a lot of us have traded him out by now because it hasn't happened, waiting for the spike game to come. I just think, could this be the one? Friday night stage. Richmond is not a bad opponent to do it against. Noah Boulder's out, a few outs at Richmond, a little bit weakened. Bombers need to show something after last week. So he's $2.50 to kick 2+ goals, Isaac, and which he's done once in his career so far. And if he can kick 3, which I think he might have kicked 4 in a preseason game, that's $6. So, that's probably getting maybe a little bit optimistic. But, I think $2.50 to kick 2+ goals isn't a bad bet for him. And if you wanted to take a flyer, I know the Phantom has been pumping him up all week. Nick Martin has an option to bring in. He's a defender and a forward in SuperCoach now and has been scoring really well. And this is the type of game where Richmond doesn't do much in terms of defending those sort of free-running halfback winger types, and he could have a heap of the ball. He's $10 to win the Yukin Award. So that's something you could just put a $5 on and have an enjoyable Friday night.
I'm leaning towards, I'm going back to Thursday night footy. I'm going big Bailey Smith. I'm going under 28.5 touches. I don't think he'll get there. So I'm backing in the doggies to put a bit of time into him. So I think he'll cop not a tag, but he'll certainly be, I think, lined up on the contest, a bit of a hip and shoulder. Tom Liberatore might give him a bit of a whack on the way through. But then I'm also going to multi that with Geelong to win. So that's paying $3.50. So I'll take that any day.
And just speaking of, maybe shutting down players, O'Sheen Mullen is the new run with specialist. I mean, they've got a few down there at the Cats now. Options with Tom Atkins and Mark O'Connor, who can put some time into some players. Who do you think O'Sheen will take down this week? He's got a few options there at the Doggies.
He certainly does. I think it'll line up on Ed Richards. Is my bet.
Yeah, that was actually my thinking too.
So I just think that the body. I think Tom Atkins will get him. It will get Bontempelli at the stoppage. It won't be a hard tag, but it'll just be a lineup. Be physical with him. Just make him work for it. But then O'Sheen he's got a good frame, but he's not a strong. He'll get thrown off the contest by Bont. So Ed Richards is probably more his speed. He's got a bit of a burst to it. So I think if he lines up on anyone, it'll be him. And I think he'll do a pretty good job.
And
Bailey, he's good. He's a good little tagger. O'Sheen, not spoken about enough.
Yep. Bailey Dale was the other one I did wonder about, but I think they go sort of more for the midfielders, don't they? But yeah, he's another one as a potential option. A couple of quick questions to wrap us up, and we'll get to some captain talk. Tristan asking, will Max Heath get a game for the Saints? He's my bench loop. I think you're probably safe, Tristan, but yeah, we're not exactly sure what the Saints are doing there, but maybe he's just a sort of, they usually name, I think Harry Boyd normally is the traditional extended bench man in terms of a backup ruckman, but he can't even get to that spot this week, and they're giving Max Heath a run in the squad.
Stiff, Boydie. Max Heath, no, yep. I can't see Heathy playing. I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, I think you're pretty safe. Now, this is a long question, but Bailey's got Callahan, Horne-Francis, and McRae. What do you do in that situation, thinking of holding Horne-Francis and McRae, flipping Callahan to Heaney? He's got a few other options there, but, of those, I think Callahan you have to trade 4 to 6. That's a long layoff. And I do like Isaac Heaney, 517K, I think. Obviously, he was ridiculous against Carlton last week, 38 disposals, scored about 142 because could have been a lot more if he'd kicked accurately in front of goal. And the Swans have a really good run coming up. I think they've got D's and maybe the Crows and Richmond coming up, or some other teams down towards the bottom of the ladder. So, yeah, I don't mind Heaney at all as a bit of a value primo in the midfield. But, what do you think of Bailey's moves there?
Yeah, I think of the three, Callahan's got to go first. I also like Heaney. I think Cullen Mills coming back into the side probably helps him out a little bit. He won't lose centre bounce rotations, but it probably allows him to not be so in and under. I imagine it'll probably help Chad Warner out as well. So, but yeah, Heaney, outstanding last week. Sydney's got a pretty good run home. Their bye's not too aggressive, which is nice as well. You can get a few weeks of Heaney into him before you have to lose him for a week. I think he's probably a really good option that's not really getting looked at that much.
Yeah, I think I looked him up and he's in 6% of teams at the moment. And I was very close to bringing him in, but unfortunately that bye, I've already got a few midfielders out. So makes it a bit difficult. But another name here that Bailey mentions that we didn't touch on going through the teams is Cooper Simpson at the Dockers. And he has been named for his third game, named on the bench, but he's been really good sort of off that halfback line, even though he's a forward in SuperCoach in his first 2 games. So I think, he's definitely one you don't want to miss out on this week, especially with a bit of uncertainty about a lot of these other rookies. If we get into maybe a little bit of a captaincy, touch on it here. Brody asking, do you prefer a Tom Green VC into Cherry or Cherry into Rankine/Sinclair? So I'll just say that that second option is what I'm doing. I'm putting the VC on Tristan Cherry, given that Harry Boyd is in that last game, allows us to loop all the way through. And I think Sinclair's a great backup in the final game. Gold Coast give up plenty of points to halfbacks. The timing of that works out well. And I just think the way Cherry is going, it'd be annoying to VC someone like Tom Green and he scores 125 and you think, oh, what do I do? I better take it. And then Cherry goes out and gets another 150. So, I prefer to VC Cherry if possible, but obviously it depends on the timing of loops and things like that. But with Saints playing late again, that allows me to do that. So that's where I'll be going. But what are you thinking, Matty?
I'm doing exactly the same. So
yeah, there you go.
Very boring. I'd had a terrible run of captaincy. Put the VC on Chad Warner, 126, and I had Cherry locked in as my captain if he didn't score that well. And I just looked at it, I was like, it'd be very me for Cherry to come out and score a 70. and I've wasted a good VC. So I took the VC. 24 points is, I mean, what's it? It's not changing my rank too much at this point of the year. So I'll go Cherry into Sinclair. I think that's a really safe bet. I know that in your Captaincy Corner article, they were the top two options. I really like that as well. But, both have got, I think Cherry against Cameron this week will be a great ruck battle. And then I think Sinclair against Gold Coast is gonna have 30 touches. So pretty easy one too.
Yep. Now, here's a very good question from Brennan, because I'm basically asking the same thing, and I guess I need an answer pretty soon because the game starts in 25 minutes. Should I go an Anderson or Green and bank 290K in his case? So you can get there's really a whole bunch of, I like Heaney at 517, but then you go up to, if you're prepared to pay 540, 550, you can get a Noah Anderson or a Tom Green. Plenty of good players around that price. Or do you just bite the bullet and think, well, now's the time, I've got the money, just get Marcus Bontempelli?
I'd go Anderson and then get Bont. I mean, his break even's 157. He can't keep this up. He can't keep it up. And once you keep it up, and I'll never get it.
SuperCoach Plus projects he'll lose about 8,000 or something after this game, and then they're on the buy. So I mean, that's maybe a reason to maybe wait. But I don't think he's getting a whole lot cheaper. And I sort of think if the timing presents itself, maybe just now's the time, because if I don't get him now and I spend money on those other guys, I'm not sure when I'll be able to get the Bont. So I'm just going to bite the bullet, and it means holding on to someone like a Levi Ashcroft, who I was thinking of moving on in the next week or two. I'll probably have to hang on to him just about through to Brisbane's bye, which is one of the last buys. So another maybe 6 weeks or something, and hope he doesn't lose too much in value. We'll see what happens between now and then. But it'll be Bont and him versus, a Heaney and someone cheaper, maybe a Shea Bolton, but we haven't talked about him at all. But do you think he's a decent option this week at 430K?
I think he's a decent option at 430K. Looking at his scores, he's actually, he's strung together a really good season outside of that. I think it was an injury affected 5. So
I don't know that he was injured.
Was he not injured? Did he play the full game?
I don't think so.
When I was going through it, I just saw it and I'm like, okay, he's definitely he's pulled up sore or something. He's done.
That was the weirdest game though. That was the Saints Freo game. Very weird things happened in that game. Okay. Freo only kicked in 3 goals in the game.
Yeah, that's bizarre. Okay. So but the rest of his scores have been outstanding. He'd be in line for a top sort of 10, 12 forward. I guess it's a case of whether you want the value or if you want to finish with the top sort of 6 to 8. I don't know if he fits into the top 6 really. Like if you look at it, I'd have Bailey Smith, Petrarca, Jackson, Warner. I'd have, depending on who gets it as well coming through. Rankin's probably ahead of him as well. He's obviously
Luke
100K cheaper than. Yeah, he's 100K cheaper than all these guys. So it's just a case of whether he can, sustain the scoring, or if you'd rather, get a value guy and know that he's not going to be 100 plus scoring. I know at the start of the season we had no 100 plus scoring average players. Now we've got too many. Like even Ryan Marich and Caleb Daniel are providing great value for us. So it's an interesting one. I haven't really put a whole heap of thought into it, but he's certainly a popular trade-in option this week.
Yeah, I don't mind him, but I don't think he's a must-have. I think he'll still drop you a 60 or 70 now and then, but then he's certainly capable of getting a 140 as well. So always a bit up and down with him. He's got a -8 break even, so I've heard a few people talking about bringing him in and just making some quick money and then maybe trading him out. I mean, Horn Francis, when he comes back, will probably lose a bit of cash. You can maybe get him for 450. I'm not sure how many people have enough trades to pull off those kinds of moves, but that is potentially an option down the track. We'll finish off with Ryan's question, which I think we already heard the answer to a little while ago if he was watching, potentially thinking about putting the VC on Ed Richards, but based on what you said about Oisin Mullen, I wouldn't be doing that.
I just think he'll get the tag. He's a good player. I'd want to stop him. I don't think you can stop Bont. That's the thing, is that you can't line a tag up on him because he only needs 20 touches to absolutely tear a game apart. So I think whereas Ed Richards, feeds the forward line, is damaging by foot. So if you put someone on him and put him under pressure for every disposal, he can't be so laser-like from the contest. So that'd be my thought process. I guess we'll know in 20 minutes who Mullen lines up on.
Yep, big question. Now, a quick, I think I forgot to put this up after We talked about our best bets, but important to mention, what's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen. That's 1-800-858-858, or visit the website gamblinghelponline.org.au. Thank you, Matt, for another round of teams. Last one before a whole bunch of buys.
Yeah, I know. We're going to it'll be a shortened podcast next week.
Well, yeah.
That's true. 4 changes to dissect.
And of course, trading going into the first week of the buy is always tricky too. But
sit on your hands, mate. Don't do anything. Don't make any changes.
Yeah,
everyone's going to have a buy from that point on. That's my thought. That's what my thought process. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. There's a preview for next week. But thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks, Matt. Good luck, everybody, with your trades. Good luck with SuperCoach. Enjoy the Baz versus the Bulldogs show tonight, and we'll catch you again soon.